Productive Pastor 97, using Canva better. What's going on, friends? It's so great to be back here. Another episode of Productive Pastor with you. We talk about healthy ministry through strategic productivity. I've been doing a podcast series for the last few weeks about social media and all of the things that kind of come with that family. Last episode, we talked about how I've been using Notion to create a more organized way of doing church announcements. And the week before that, I really just kind of delved into this idea about social media not causing anxiety and stress and using a social calendar and creating things in batches. This episode, we're going to talk about one of my favorite and many of other people's favorites, if not favorite, normal software that you use on the internet called Canva. We're going to jump into some best practices. I'll also have a template for you, so make sure you cruise over the show notes, revchatbrooks.com/PPP/097, about taking the most advantage out of Canva. With that, let's just go straight into the episode. The primary content, this is going to be a little bit quicker of an episode today because it is laser focused really in on this one idea about how to use Canva in an easier, more efficient way. So to start off with, you might be asking, Chad, I don't know what this Canva thing is at all you talk about, or you might be saying, Chad, I spend too much time in Canva. I don't want to hear about Canva. But Canva.com is a all-in-one image creation and editing software. You can do some pretty high-level graphic design. I'd be willing to bet that so many images that you see across the internet are made or started or touched somehow by Canva. It takes the place of Adobe Illustrator. Sometimes takes the place of Adobe Photoshop, Microsoft Publisher, all of those things. It really is an all-in-one solution for people in churches. What's great is the basic side of it, there's a free version, and then also some churches have been successful in getting the nonprofit business license for free, or you can just pay for the nonprofit, or you just pay for the business license, and it's worth the money because so many things can be done inside of it. It is just a standard operating way to use image generation. But the problem is it can be so overwhelming because there's so many options for what's going on. So like I said, I've got a template for you. It's in the show notes because I'm going to give you 8 or 9 slides that give you this idea of a way that I stumbled across using Canva several years ago that makes it so much quicker, but also easier to delegate to other people in the church. And so this is the problem that I've heard from some pastors that's encountered, is that it just takes so much time to do things inside of Canva. And I'll be honest with you, over the last month since we've been doing this, I've been kind of cruising through a lot of church Facebook pages. And friends, they're busy. They're really, really busy, especially the images. Now, we live in a world now, especially online, where images are everywhere. We know that just a text-based thing does not come across very well. You've got to get an image inside of there. So people have the temptation to just pretend this is clip art like back in the day. I remember when I was a kid, this is the late 1980s, my dad was in youth ministry, and he actually had these big, thick books of just black and white illustrations and some typography and that kind of stuff. And when they were making a flyer for an event, the whole thing was you take the book, you make a copy of the page that you wanted, you cut out the image that you wanted, and then they had a big light box that you put a single blank sheet of copy paper on, and you literally started using transparent tape and layering all of these things on top of each other to make your final flyer. And we have progressed so far from that place, but I think sometimes people still feel the need in church to just take care of things like that, to just come in and just put tons and tons and tons of stuff on the images. And as I talked about in the first episode in this series, friends, that's a little bit, it's too much. It takes way too much time to do, but it's also following kind of an antiquated idea of design. Now, many people in ministry did not go to school for graphic design. And so we just think, let's just put a bunch of stuff on there and people can get the information. It's going to look pretty and it's going to work. But the problem is that the whole signal to noise ratio goes down. things are so busy, people don't want to pay attention to it, or also because design is such a huge part of our life now, we see an image that doesn't look good, and we automatically assume so many things about why that might not work out for us. Friends, that's a bummer, but it doesn't have to be this way. And this is the solution that I want to give you, is what does it mean to create a style guide in Canva? Now, a style guide is how you build up a brand identity. I remember the first time I was working in a large organization that actually had multiple graphic designers as part of the team. They released a style guide. It was given out to everyone that was in the seminary that if they're creating anything, these are the things that you need to know. This is the template in some ways that we've given ourselves. This is the font that we choose to use. This is the weighting that we are choosing to use. Here are the logos. Please don't modify these. And it was a way to build up brand identity. And you can use Canva to do the exact same thing. And what we stumbled onto was, years ago when I was at a church, we were pretty deep into Canva. There were several of us on staff that could use Canva well. And we started delegating out the images. But what we found out was that all of the images looked really different. Some people were better at them than other people were, but everybody could copy paste text. So what we came in as we realized is we're going to build out at least twice a year. We shot for quarterly. We were going to build a style guide out for what the church might need to use. And I went in there, and another staff member that had a really good eye for design would go in there. And we created 7 to 8 slides that really and truly should cover the water for anything you might need to do. And then we made sure to take good pictures. I talked a lot about good pictures back on the earlier part of the episode. And I actually went into my own church, the small rural church I pastor right now, and before worship just took a bunch of standalone images this past week with my phone to be able just to make sure you can get good kind of clean images whenever. And so, if you go in there and you get good pictures taken, remember the rules. We want faces, not backs. We want to make sure we have good lighting, and we try to get closer rather than further away. And then you're going to have these good images in front. So then any person on staff that had access to Canva that needed to make an image for whatever they might need to make an image for, if it was going to be shown on the big screen during worship, if it was going to be used as part of our live stream presentation, if it was going to be used on any of our social media stuff, things began to look really, really clear and really, really similar because we had created that style guide. So all the person needed to do was to go and take the slide from the style guide they wanted to copy. They would be able to go into Canva and they would be able to just simply copy that image and then put on their information. So what I want to do for the rest of the episode is this. I want to walk through this really simple template that I'm giving you on the show notes. It's just, it's 8 images. That's all it is. But the first thing you see is that there is a Sunday worship image. Now, hint, all of the images you see in the back of this, I generated through AI to just keep privacy in check. And also, I can do some pretty good solid stuff in AI when I need an abstract image. I would tell you, don't use fake images of people in your church. Don't use a fake picture of your church. Go get the real thing, but this is the easiest way for me to show you best practices. And so the first one is just a Sunday worship image. And I've got the title Sunday Worship. I've got a generic church logo. And if you don't have a single color, transparent church logo in a PNG file, you can make one in Canva. And so you go ahead, you make that as a .png, you export it with the background being transparent, then you drag it back into your uploaded images in Canva, and then you can drop it in to everything. But that first image right there is totally appropriate for you to share your Sunday worship announcement. Like I talked about that post, making that on a Friday or a Saturday. The second picture, the image that we have inside of here in this template is just a generic image of people talking to one another at church. And I pop that church logo down at the bottom. I'm a big fan of if you have to have a lot of information, and many times you don't need to have a big, busy image for that announcement. You put the stuff in the text, and then you share a picture of real people at your church doing things together. There's a perfect image for that right there. The next one we have is an art background. They got dropped into it, and it's for a special Sunday. So what happens if you do have some piece of abstract art or some pretty picture, something like that, that might work for you very well. And you can use that for an abundance of things. The next image, so page 4 in that template is this. There's a single color background here. Friends, part of getting out this style guide is going ahead and making the decision. There are 3 or 4 colors that we're going to use for everything. And so on this event, we have a single color background that's part of the brand identity. And then you see just a simple name of the event, date, time, and place. If you're making a post for the very first time for an event, this would be a completely appropriate image to use in that scenario. We go into the slide 5. It's another generic image you can use for many different things, especially if something needs more explanation and you do want to put it on this image. This would probably work better as some sort of an image that you want to pop into a live stream as part of a pre-roll or a post-roll segment. But you can use it many places, and we did. And behind it, I have just an AI-generated image of a church at worship. Next image I have is just another event, date and time, but you see it is focusing on a picture of people doing things together. We go into number 7. You see this is a generic Ash Wednesday announcement that we ran for several years. But you see, if you're going to be talking about something, you can put better, compelling copy, a better explanation, that sort of thing inside of the description of what's going on, and your image is just there to catch their mind, grab their eyes, and encourage them to stop the scroll. Number 8, I have an example of a scripture post. I think every church should be doing 1 scripture post a week. It is an easy thing to do. It doesn't take that much time, but here's a great format that makes it look super pretty. Now, that is 8 images in that template. You might be saying, Chad, 8 is not enough. But remember, this is about copying and using that in another way. This will make your Canva work so much quicker as you go across scheduling out your week or your month. This will give you a brand identity that looks clean. And this will also allow you to delegate this stuff to other people. Now, you might be saying, Chad, that's great, but this can't last forever. No, it can't. But a couple of times a year, maybe 4 times a year in max, you go in and you refresh this, meaning you slightly change up the fonts, meaning you're paying attention to what other churches or other people are doing with a similar style of images, and you modify or you make new images that can serve as a template for the future. You go in and you change your brand colors. You know, in the summer, you want fun summery colors. In the winter, it's more appropriate to use darker colors. You can change this stuff absolutely. And every 6 months, every 3 months, you go in and you create your new brand identity for that season. Now, I told you this is going to be a quick episode, but the main thing I wanted to do really was to give you that template, to give you a way to think about how you might be using those things to trim out the time so you're not spending so much time overwhelmed in administrative communication and doing the church social media. So you can go out there and spend more time with real people doing ministry. Now, I found out that the visual side of things is so important. So I didn't want to do this series on social media without talking about the ways that you can just lower the stress level, but also do things at a really, really high level. Because friends, this will make your stuff look cleaner. I would hate for somebody to not come experience your church because things don't look clean, or they look hurried, or they look busy. 9 times out of 10, social, I found out, is significantly simpler than we try to make it. So thanks for tuning in this episode of Productive Pastor. Next episode is going to be kind of like a shotgun approach of what just strong social media tactics and tips might look like for your local church. I will see you back on an episode. Thanks for tuning in.